Coming to you today with a bit of breaking news. It seems like it has been a very busy week at Tesla, and that is for obvious reasons. Today, I'm actually bringing you a price change. This is actually our third price change of 2024, and this one comes just days after our last one. See, we have a temporary price change in place for the Model Y, an extra $1,000 off. And now the Model 3 is having its second change in price here at the beginning of the year. So with all of that, I think that there's an interesting story to be had because when we look at inventory on hand, it's painting a pretty good picture of what exactly is happening at Tesla, specifically regarding the Model 3. And based on the latest news that we had just yesterday, I think that there's a lot to consider here when you're thinking about a Model Y versus a Model 3. Real quick though, we are at nearly 80,000 subscribers and my goal is 100,000 this year. I have a long way to go. I would really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button. So a lot to unpack here. I'll try to break this down as usual in very easy to understand numbers, charts, and we'll talk about, is it worth getting the refresh Model 3 or should you go with the legacy Model Y now that we know that the refresh is not coming anytime soon? All right, so starting here on Tesla's website, first things first, I want to talk about the Model Y because just a couple weeks ago, we got this update on pricing for the Model Y, which is important for today's video because this extra $1,000 off really plays into the bigger picture here. We are getting the best, literally, I didn't make this point strong enough last time. $47,990 is the best price the Model Y has ever been offered for, period. Now, there's even better prices to be had with existing inventory, and I'll show you an example of that later, but literally, there has never been a better price from Tesla for the long-range Model Y ever. So it launched at quite a bit more than this, and even at its lowest point previously it was at $48,990. So at $47,990, this is literally, it has never been better pricing than what it is today. Even looking at historic charts here, you can see that also. This was back in February of 2021 at $48,990. And forget the pricing here. This trim has been called several different things and represented several different versions of what is today known as the rear-wheel drive Model Y. So these prices have kind of been around. $39,990 was the low that we ever had, and it was the configuration that we have today, a rear-wheel drive Model Y. But there were some differences between today's and that one. So the long-range Model Y, best price ever. The performance Model Y, best price ever. So something to keep in mind as we look at this. But the big change that we have is actually here in the Model 3. This is the second price change that we've had for the Model 3, the refresh Model 3 here in 2024. And coming down here, $47,490. So another $500 in price change for the Model 3 long range all-wheel drive. Also, you cannot get a long range Model 3 in this quarter, which is no surprise with this having the price increases that it's had, which is pretty unique to the Model 3 right now. Of course, demand is pretty strong, but if you're okay with just a standard range, you can still get delivery here pretty soon. So no issues with too many orders on the rear-wheel drive. The long range, completely different story, and this is going to continue to be the case until Project Juniper or the refresh Model Y comes into play, because this is the only long range updated version of a 3 or Y that you can get today. Since there is no performance or plaid, this is your only option to get maximum range. So 341 miles, 4.2, 0 to 60, 47,490, zero tax credit eligibility. Another site that I like to look at to get a better picture of what's going on is Tesla Info. I look here often, and I just looked here the other day. As a matter of fact, when we got that additional $1,000 incentive on the Model Y, the Model Y inventory was sitting right here at 6,138. So just in a few days, it's already come down about 1,500 units in the North America, at least. So that extra $1,000 is definitely working, and it's consuming a lot of this inventory. Model 3 is now down to 146 cars in the entire North American region. And the Model S and X continue to tick up a bit. Nothing too crazy yet, but I will say the Model X is now sitting at more inventory than any time since September of 2023. So that does bode well for potential offers and incentives here as we close out the end of this quarter. And then kind of look at that in a different way visually. You can really see, I mean, Model 3 inventory not only just dropped off, but it continues to trickle down to nearly nothing. So we'll start to see these numbers coming down again, which is good as we come to the end of the quarter. This is usually how this works anyway. So we've got about 6 weeks left. And that 6 weeks, that's when we're going to start to see the biggest movements happen in inventory. And it's all going to be based on this. What's in inventory and what offers are being added on top of that? Because today, I do want to point out we do finally have some performance Model Ys in inventory, which is great news. We have not seen these in inventory until just today. This is the first time I've seen inventory in my area for a performance Model Y. These have been MIA for some time, at least for inventory. So whatever was holding them up from running bigger production runs or whatever, that has since been resolved, and they are now shipping performance Model Ys once again, which is great news. So this is where everything counts. When we look at these new prices, you're at $3,500 less to get a rear-wheel drive Model Y. You're at $7,000 less to get a long-range all-wheel drive Model Y instead of a Model 3 long range. Even the performance Model Y is cheaper than the long-range all-wheel drive when considering the at point of sale tax credit of $7,500. The only thing that would prevent you from getting this at point of sale is if you don't transfer it to the new Tesla and you make too much money. Your tax liability doesn't matter as long as you transfer this to the dealer. Even then, there's still good news to be had. So these are the cheapest in inventory vehicles in my area, and it is a little bit better even than just the other day. The cheapest in inventory rear-wheel drive Model Y at $40,840, $45,590, which is the same as it was just yesterday. And $52,490, we finally have performance Model Y in inventory. When we consider that additional Cybertruck incentive of another $1,000 off if you have a Cybertruck on order and you're ordering a Model Y, that brings you down to $32,340 for the rear-wheel drive, $37,090 for the long-range all-wheel drive, and $43,990 for the performance all-wheel drive. What this means is literally you can get an in-inventory long-range Model Y for cheaper than a standard range Model 3, which is crazy. The only thing that's more expensive than the cheapest Tesla that is sold today is the performance Model Y, and it is about $5,000 more. That is a huge upgrade for $5,000. So in my area, we're talking $10,400 cheaper to get a long-range Model Y versus a long-range Model 3, and you'll get this pretty much right away. Definitely before the end of the quarter. Now, you won't be getting the refresh Model 3, you'll be foregoing that, but that's kind of the big question. Is it worth $10,000 to get a Model 3 over a Model Y? I guess everybody's situation is a little bit different. I think it's a no-brainer personally. So yes, a Model 3 is more expensive, and yes, you do get the updated version of Tesla's next refresh for the Model 3 Model Y line, and that's going to get you some nice features. Things like acoustic glass, ambient lighting, cooled seats, fully redesigned seats, front and rear display. That rear display has been added. 17 speakers for long range, 9 speakers for rear wheel drive. The steering wheel is completely updated with turn signals on the steering wheel. The center horn has been returned to its location, but the gear shifter is now only on the screen instead of having stocks. And then of course you have the blind spot monitors that are now also included. We also have a plethora of incentives available for new purchases. Things like full self-driving transfer for the rest of this quarter, unlimited supercharging transfer for the rest of this quarter, an extra $1,000 incentive for Cybertruck order holders, full self-driving for free for 3 months if you use a referral code, and then that extra $1,000 off until the end of February for Model Y purchases. Tesla has also focused on leases because it's a little bit easier in tougher economic times to convince people the payment is worth sacrifice by leasing a vehicle instead of purchasing. Not judging there either way, but they've brought down the down payment requirements for the Model Y and kept the lease payment the same that it was before. So we're seeing a lot of changes happen here. And as we come to the end of this quarter, depending on where Model Y inventory lands, somewhere halfway through March, that's when we would see probably the best deals available for the Model Y. We brought the price down an additional $1,000 for the rest of this month. That did not translate into inventory discounts. Matter of fact, inventory discounts seem to go down by $1,000. So inventory hasn't really changed. So there is some opportunity for additional savings starting sometime in March if we're lucky. Again, we will not have a refreshed Model Y until next year, at least according to internal documents from Tesla. So I know price increases are never popular, but that is the way things go with the high demand for the refreshed Model 3 as it is right now. Hope that you enjoyed this video. Can't wait to catch you on the next one.